20% of people own 80% of this country's wealth. The next 40% own a little bit less than 20% of the wealth, and the bottom 40% own about 0.3% of the wealth. So taxing everyone at the same rate is obviously grotesque because when you tax the poor at even a like marginal cost, it takes out so much money of their minuscule paycheck that they can't afford to live any sort of life that has any sort of comfort. So I would tax the upper 20% at around a 50% income tax rate, and then drop down from there to 20%, 15%, 7%, and 4%, approximately, in a quintile disparity. It means every fifth.
Kenny,
well, earlier you stated that people come to America to be equal, and they want to expand their horizons where they can fight for and work to become rich and famous like that. So why tax people who have majority of the wealth when they themselves or their parents worked for that? So you're just going to take it away for what they came to America to do?
See, social progression inside of America, going up and down the socioeconomic ladder, is very minuscule to say the least, because about 95% of people who were born into wealth stay in the wealth, whereas 95% of people born in poverty stay in poverty. And government programs have been proven to be very effective, such as in the case of Europe, where they've decreased the poverty rate to less than 2%.
Mario?
No.
No, you disagree or no comment?
No comment.
All right. I'd probably had about 10 questions on this, so I'd probably try to lower it down to about 2. Start with Mario. How will you tackle the national debt?
I think I would try and tackle it by
What?
nothing. I was thinking. Can I pass?
That's your chance to talk. You get a minute, so. Gonna pass?
Yeah.
Zach?
Alright, so right now our deficits are about is sitting at about 1.1 trillion. And so through a system of budget cuts, such as military cuts and other types of cuts, such as doctor reimbursement rates in Medicare and Medicaid, and Social Security increase, the age increase since Americans are now living older, would be able to cut about half of that, but the other half would need to be covered by an increase in taxes, especially on those who are rich. And economic models have shown increases on tax hikes always bring in more revenue, and tax cuts always decrease revenue. So I would get rid of the Bush era tax cuts to allow, especially on those making more than $250,000 a year, to help alleviate stress on the national debt.
Okay, Virgil?
I, as a Republican candidate, would say pro-business, to where you would lessen the regulations and taxes on businesses to where multiple businesses are made, and those businesses have to hire employees, so employees will be paid money to spend, because the economy in America has always been a buying-selling economy. So if people make money and they spend money, they'll be able to pay taxes, and businesses will pay taxes, and they'll just lessen the debt on America, because even though taxes are lowered on businesses, if multiple businesses are made, the difference will be made up and or exceed what we already had. So by limiting regulations and taxes on businesses, that will take some of the debt away, but also lowering taxes on healthcare and lowering the military from 50% in Afghanistan to 25%, and disperse some of the military to where they have less taxes on the military and less pay goes towards the military and more pay goes to making up the debt.
But why are you leaning to the military? Why would you want more people to die if we lessen the tax and everything on the military and we're taking money out of that? That's like, we're going to have more people dying than surviving because their equipment is as good, because we took their money for their equipment for them to survive at a better chance and a better killing rate. And why would we take money out of the military to
Both of these guys. Okay, so right now our military budget's sitting at about $780 billion per year, and that accounts for over 40% of the world's military budget, which is incredibly high to say the least. Secondly, as we saw during the Bush-era tax cuts and the deregulation thereof of the economy, it did not increase revenue gained through tax cuts, and going even farther back to Reagan, he tried the same thing. All it did was decrease the money made through taxes. And we keep going back through American history and the world history, and every time we have a tax cut, obviously it shows that that the government gets less in revenue. And there's no correlation between business growth and tax cuts, because during 1945 through the 1970s, we saw the highest period of economic growth in the U.S., but also the highest tax rates ever recorded in our country's history. So that just proves that taxes have zero to little correlation with that of businesses' productivity.
Okay, switching gears back to social issues. I think we start with back to Zach. Had a couple questions. I'll try to log them into one. How do you feel that sexual education should be taught to our schools?
People need to know, like, right now about 95% of Americans have sex before their wedding day, and we can't just keep this puritanical ideal that none of us have sex ever, because that's certainly not the case. So we need to teach kids how to properly protect themselves from STDs, STIs, and unwanted pregnancies, rather than teach them Bronze Age credos of not having sex ever and ignoring the fact that they eventually do.
Okay, Virgil?
I would have to agree with Zach on teaching children how to have proper sex where it's protected, and avoiding unwanted pregnancies, and avoiding having to make the decision of abortion or pro-life. So I would say teach them at a younger age, around middle school, 7th or 8th grade, where they know if they get in that situation or they want to pursue that the right way and the proper way to do it is by having safe sex. And as personally, I would hope that they want to make the decision of having sex to their marriage, but then again, it's not a perfect world, and silly.
What are your views on sexual education to, how should it be taught to schools and kids?
And that's any grade.
Was that?
Is that any grade?
It was just a general, and right now in Idaho, we teach what? Abstinence only. We don't teach safe sex, stuff like that.
So I think I think we should, they try and scare us with the whole abstinence thing, like don't have sex because this can happen, or these other abstract things can happen, like if you can have this or this kind of STD or all these other issues. But at the same time, just like they were saying, there's probably a 95% chance that people are having sex before marriage, which everyone is not, everyone's not the perfect one. Things happen, and if you're deciding that you're going to do it, have safe sex. So.
Okay. Mario, kind of another social topic. Okay, what do you think the role of religion should play in public schools?
I think the role of religion, just like how Columbia has I forget what it's called, but I think the religion point of view in schools should be open to if you don't want to be in that, if you don't want to talk about the God or anything, and if you don't believe in your political views in that point of view, you shouldn't have to talk about it, or you shouldn't have to excuse yourself from class. They shouldn't abandon it from schools.
So you think religion should be involved in education, public education?
Yes. Well, not really public education.
Mario, you're a Democrat, I remind you.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, and it's your personal view?
It's fine.
Zach?
I don't believe public schools or any publicly funded institution should condone any religion whatsoever. This is a secular country. This country is based on freedom, not only of religion but from religion. And when you show your religious values down people's throats. That's just indoctrination, and you shouldn't be able to, you know, you should never feel uncomfortable being in, especially in a public school. You should never feel uncomfortable or feel the need to have to not come to school just because a certain religion is being endorsed by that school.
Virgil?
I would say, as a personal thing, I would like if religion was influenced in public school, but I realize that not everybody believes in God and that people have their own personal opinions. So I believe that there should be programs and classes so you can choose if you would wish to be in a religious class or learn about religion. You can choose a class or an opportunity to go there, just like the LDS Church has seminary for the young children who want to do that, or for Christians, they have the program of FCA or other Christian schools. So I would say that it's optional, but I would not say to influence it and force it down young adults and teenage throats, because if you are doing that, you are just becoming a religious bully instead of a pro leader.
Okay. Okay, I have two questions on this. Who we back to? Yeah, Lisa. What do you think the United States' role should be in foreign policy?
In foreign policy, well, we're sitting right now, we have a duty to other countries to provide humanitarian aid, especially in countries located in Africa and South America, and developing countries in South America where extreme cases of poverty and malnourishment exist. It's up to us as one of the most developed, if not the most developed nation in this world, to help alleviate the struggles that people face, to provide for the necessary infrastructure that's needed to promote economic growth, to establish food and clean water sources, etc., to people who best play the game.
Okay.
I would say reduce foreign policy and influence private charities to take care of it, because as we can see, several private charities are right now working on it, and they're doing it at a lot faster rate than we are. So I would say leave it to private charities, and by reducing foreign policy, I would say take care of our own country with the poverty and the homeless people that we have in our own nation, rather than take care of other nations when our nation is suffering from it as well.
So when we go into poverty, we can't, if we were to do that and not help anyone else, then if we were going to their same type of situation and they were doing good, then we wouldn't expect any help from anyone else. So I think we should be helping, people in Africa, South America, all over. If we have it, then try and help. We're a freedom country, so if we were doing the same issue, then we expect, okay, help back. Okay, we can go to this country and they'd probably help us.
Okay, Mario, we'll start. We'll come back right with you. What do you think our role should be, I guess our military role in the Middle East?
Our military role. I think, leaving them there would probably be, if people have any, parents or anything there, leaving them there until we're actually done with all the fighting and the war, and then bringing them back as soon as possible would probably be in the best interest.
The Middle East is the most volatile region in all of the world, and quite frankly, we spent enough money and time there to have a non-worthwhile investment. We've set up democracies, and people are electing their leaders, and even if we don't like the leaders they choose, that's not the point of a democracy. The point of a democracy is for the people to choose their leaders, and should not be influenced by other countries.